Welcome to the 1088 podcast. I'm your host, Ellis Maxwell. Thank you for tuning in and listening from wherever you are. We're going to be exploring the Susan Cox Powell investigation. This case came in December 7th, 2009, 16 years ago. And I was the lead detective on that investigation. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get into it in this episode of day one of this investigation. And the goal is to basically share my perception, my experiences of this investigation as we revisit it. But also down the road, not right now, but down the road, we'll also dive into looking for her remains. So we're going to be kind of doing this together side by side. But for right now, I just want to get you caught up and bring you up to speed as to where we're at in the investigation, what I was doing, what I was working on, what I was feeling, what I was thinking. And we can all scratch our head as to what in the hell was Josh Powell thinking and doing. Okay? So let's do it. All right, let's talk about the background of this Powell family that we're going to talk about here. As I mentioned, December 7th, 2009 is when Susan and Josh was reported missing, and their two boys, Braden and Charlie. It was Josh's sister and mother that filed this report with the West Valley City Police Department on this early, cold, snowy morning, all right? But Josh and Susan, who are they? Where do they come from? Well, they're state of Washington natives. They lived in some suburbs outside of Seattle. And they met there, and eventually they got married. I think it was probably around 2001 when they get married. And they kind of lived around there. I know they lived in an apartment. They lived in another location in Olympia. And then they also lived with Josh's father, Stephen Powell. That's a whole nother episode there. But they kind of moved around in the state of Washington. And then they eventually, in 2004, I think it was 2004, they moved to the state of Utah. Now, this is kind of interesting to me because all of Susan's family lives in the state of Washington. All of Josh's family lives in the state of Washington, with the exception of his sister and his mom. They're the only two that live here in the state of Utah. But they moved here, and then it's later, about a year later or so, 2005, that they have Charlie. And then 2007, they have their second son, Braden. They're both, at the time of the investigation, they were both employed full-time with some employers that were north of where they lived in the Salt Lake County Valley area. And, it's wild to me. I mean, this will become a discussion later, but isolation, just take note, isolation. I feel like, and I feel like that he kind of was isolating her from her family and friends and her comfort area up in Washington, right? And that's kind of a direction of control. I'm going to isolate you here because then that way you've got full control. That party's got full control over them, and they can't be. They're less manipulated by their family and friends and informed or whatnot. So, all right, day one, December 7th, 2009. Josh and Susan were last seen the day before, on December 6th, that Sunday, at around 5:30 p.m. All right? So now we're into Monday. they both worked full-time, and they had a daycare provider. That daycare provider didn't see Josh, Susan, or the kids that morning, as she traditionally would every morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And not a big deal, but after some hours pass, they're not showing up. She starts making some phone calls. And she calls Josh's phone, Susan's phone, and they go directly to voicemail. So it's kind of it's concerning for her. But it's not like she's not ringing the alarm bells quite yet. It's not until about 9 o'clock that she decides to go to the residence. I'd be like, okay, something's up. Like, where are they? Nobody's answering. So she goes to the residence and she drives up the driveway, about halfway up the driveway. Now, I remind you, it's snowing. It has been snowing through the evening. There was a significant snowstorm that had moved in early that morning, late into the evening before, and it was super cold. And but she pulls up and she takes note that there is no tire impressions in the snow coming out of the garage. And so she pulls up halfway up the driveway, gets out, walks up to the front door, knocks on the door, rings the doorbell, no answer. And so she eventually leaves and goes back home, where she then gets the call list that Josh and Susan had provided her, emergency contact, and then starts making phone calls. And these phone calls go to it goes to Josh's sister and mom. She establishes contact with them, and they have no knowledge. They're like, we have no idea. We haven't heard from them. We haven't talked to them. They haven't expressed that they were leaving, going anywhere. And so now the concern is on. The radars are up, and there's something going on, right? And so from that point, they live some distance from Josh and Susan, his sister and mom, and what traditionally would be a 15, maybe 20, pushing it, minute drive from where they reside to where Josh and Susan reside. It almost took them an hour with the snowstorm, because it was dropping so much snow, and the roads were just awful. And so anyways, they eventually get to the house, and they discover the same thing that the daycare provider discovered. Blinds are closed, doors are locked, windows are closed. And they eventually call the police department. The police department shows up on scene around 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:02 to be exact. Again, doors locked, windows locked, nothing. Can't see inside the residence, nada, okay? And it's about an hour and a half afterwards that they decide to break a window to gain access into the residence. Once they gain access into the residence, there's nobody there. Josh isn't there, Susan, the boys, nobody's there inside. Their van is not in the garage. And there is no obvious signs inside of the residence of a robbery, a burglary, physical altercation, nothing. Like there's nothing that's like, oh wow, what happened here? So it's about 1:30 in the afternoon that I get notification from my supervisor. He comes into the investigation floor and approaches me and asks that I go out to assist patrol on a missing family. So I get that information from him. I reach out to the initial officer that was out on scene and kind of collect some information from him. And he shares with me Josh and Susan's information. So before I rush out there, I kind of do a little bit of a background on these two, Josh and Susan. And, you know, that background looks at, you know, I'm looking at like criminal history. I'm diving into our own database. Okay, have we ever been out there? What have they been involved in? Anything. I'm just trying to find something on them. And I'm not finding really a whole lot of anything. And so I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. I mean, his family's just missing, but there's like no criminal history, no information on them. Okay, well, maybe they just went somewhere for the holidays and they just didn't share with immediate family where they were going, or, you know, who knows, man? Who knows, right? I mean, police work, I've seen everything. So anyways, so I get done with that, and I call both of their phone numbers. I call Susan's number, I call Josh's number. They go directly to voicemail. So that's kind of that's a clue, right? It's like, well, why is both their numbers going to voicemail? Not one of them's answering. That's a little concerning. Maybe they got involved in an accident somewhere. Maybe, who knows? And so after about an hour, I end up arriving out at the scene around 2:30 in the afternoon, and I get briefed with the patrol officer, and he kind of shares with me, hey, we broke the window, we went in the house, there's toys scattered all over the floor in the front room, but we kind of cleaned them up, and we actually did bring in some of their friends and family into the house, and we moved some chairs into the front room so that people could be warm. They obviously, once I learned that early on in the investigation, I was like, yo, get them out of there, man. What are you thinking? But anyways, so now we're doing the walkthrough. I'm doing the walkthrough in the house. I walk into this home. It's a rambler home, meaning just single level. There's no upper level. And as you walk into the front entry door, you walk right into the front room. And when you walk into this front room, you've got like a little bit of a love seat off to the right, and then off to the right of it is a couch, and then an entertainment center. You got a Christmas tree, and then kind of that direction is the entrance into the kitchen and dining, as well as where the washer and dryer is off to the right, and then an entrance into the garage. Now, if I keep walking straight into this residence, then I'm going to have a hard left. Now, it's going to be the hallway. It's going to take me down to the children's bedroom, an office, and the master bedroom, bathroom. And there's also a bathroom at the very end of that hallway. Okay, so let's back up to this front room. Crazy. You got two box fans that are set up, blowing towards the carpet couch area. And from what the initial officer was telling me, the radio was on, the stereo, but at a low level, like some low level music playing. It's kind of interesting. All right, well, maybe they just cleaned the carpets or their furniture and carpets and went to go stay somewhere until it all dried. Who knows, right? This is police work. We don't know what's going on. Anyways, so that's that. The house isn't really like, there's no signs of like a robbery, a burglary, no physical altercation of any sort. It's pretty squared away. I mean, a little bit disorganized. And you go down the hall, the bedroom for the kids, the bedding's all off of the two beds. So that's kind of like, wait, where's the blankets and sheets, right? I mean, it's just these mattress with a fitted sheet. The office, nothing really to report crazy there. Go in the master bedroom, and take a look at this picture. You go in there, and the bed is pretty much, it's not like made pretty like how I'd make my bed or what the military would appreciate. But the room's kind of organized, but then disorganized. I mean, there's a vacuum in the middle of the floor. There's a steam cleaner just kind of off to the end of the room, off to the side of the bed there. And then there's the yarn project. There's yarn that's sitting there off to the left on a like sitting bench, which that comes into play later. And the rest of the bedroom is just kind of cluttered with storage. Josh had he was in kind of RC cars, so there was like some of that stuff in there. There's kind of clothes stacked up here and there. But wait, what's that purple handbag? Just a solo purple handbag sitting there. Well, that's Susan's purse. Yeah, crazy, huh? So the family's not there. Vacuum's in the middle of the floor, steam cleaner. You got fans blowing in the front room, and then you've got Susan's purse that's sitting out in the open. And as you dive into this purse, there's nothing missing out of the purse. I mean, there's her ID, there's credit cards, her wallet, cash. Nothing looks disturbed. Yeah, kind of crazy. All right, well, let's take note of that and move on, all right? So I walk out, I snap some photos of inside the residence. I think some of them you saw there that we brought up on the screen. And I go out and it's like, okay, well, we need to start talking to some people. And we need to start learning more about Josh and Susan and what's going on here. Because none of this is making any sense. What woman leaves their home and leaves behind their purse? Not too many. ID, credit cards, debit cards, all of that stuff. It's wild. So I get out and I meet with Josh's sister and his mom. I get some information from them. I speak with the daycare provider. We already kind of talked about that a little bit. And we then talk to an individual. We'll name her Joe. Okay. And Joe is a critical key witness in this investigation, in my opinion. She's the last one to see Susan alive and well, okay? And so in talking with her, she was very articulate, just a great person and provided a lot of really great detail. And she was summoned over to the residence, she tells me, on Sunday, the day before, and to help Susan with a yarn project. They go to church with one another, they're friends, they live in the neighborhood together. And Joe would come over and help her with projects all the time. And Joe actually told me, and I thought this was kind of odd, but Joe would tell me that she would go over there and even cook Josh and the kids dinner sometimes and help clean the house and do other projects for Susan. What's wrong with Josh helping out? And so, but whatever, she just said that, she was fine with it. It didn't seem abnormal to her. And she said that, Susan would ask her for help. And, at times, she was just too busy. But, what Joe did share with me was that that's just the way life was in the Powell residence. Susan did everything. Josh did very little. Susan was the mom to the kids. She was the mom to Josh, it seemed like. I mean, she even mentioned it in her journal entries that she felt like a mom to 3 boys, not just 2. And Joe kind of, shared that information, saying that it was true. She was always having to take care of the kids by herself and do everything by herself, and Josh would rarely help. Now, here's the crazy thing in talking with Joe is that Joe says that when she was visiting the home on that Sunday, that Josh was cooking them lunch and served them up lunch individually, like up on their plates, and like served Susan, served Joe, served the kids. And he was extremely nice and polite, she said. And she said that was very abnormal, that was not Josh. And she picked up on this immediately. She was a great witness. Susan's best friend spoke with her, spoke with Susan's parents, spoke with Stephen Powell, and the consensus in speaking with everyone, minus Steve's not going to say this, but everybody else, for the most part, said Josh was pretty controlling. He was a pretty controlling individual. Some people labeled him as being bipolar. All of them said that he was verbally abusive. Some of them said that, Susan was like a single mom with this guy. Like he wasn't around. He was there, but he wasn't helping her. And so that was kind of the discovery in talking with all of these different people. And it's a little concerning for me. I mean, I'm listening to these people. So the overall consensus was that Josh was controlling, he was bipolar, verbally abusive, just didn't sound good. Didn't sound good at all. And the more I was talking to people, family, friends, the more concerned I was becoming. And but I've got to be optimistic, and let's roll forward. Let's see what happens. They're going to turn up eventually. We're going to find them, right? And so while I'm on the phone with, I believe I was on the phone with Steve Powell, and Steve had shared with me that he thought this was abnormal, that they were all missing and nobody knew where they were at. So that's good. And Steve also verified that he had last spoke to Josh the day before Josh had called him up for a pancake recipe. That's kind of interesting. But whatever. Move on. But I'm on the phone with Josh, and here comes Joe. And she's like knocking on my window. I'm sitting in my police car doing work because it's so freaking cold outside. So cold outside. We're talking like in the teens. And so Joe's knocking on my window, and I'm on the phone, and I'm just like, just a minute. And so once I get off the phone call, I'm talking to Joe, and Joe's like, hey, I just talked to Josh Powell. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I just talked to him. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what in the world is going on here, man? Like, dude, I've called him, no answer. I've left voicemails, no call back. I know his sister's called, his mom's, like all these. But then I've got Joe that's coming to me saying, hey, I've talked to him. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about this. And she says that her son had called and that Josh had answered, and he got scared and hung up, went and told his mom, and then mom calls and Josh answers again. What a Nimrod, dude. But anyways, Josh answers. When I say Nimrod, I'm talking about Josh being the Nimrod, right? Like, he clearly had a plan. We'll get into all that. But he answers these two phone calls. And so he answers Joe's call, and hey, man, Joe shares with me, hey, we're at your house. The cops are here. Like, where are you at? Where's Susan? And he's like, oh, Susan's at work. And I'm just driving around with the kids here in West Valley. Okay, well, listen, we've called Susan's work. She's not at work. The police are here. You need to come home. Oh, okay, yeah, all right, click, bye, hang up. This is being shared with me. I even now, I'm like, I was like, how do I what? Is this serious? Is this real? Is this real life stuff? Like, this makes no sense. And so I take note of everything. And I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of questioning it. I'm like, is Joe wanting attention? And that's why she's coming with me? Or is this like legitimate information? I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm interested. And so this has got to be around just prior to 5 o'clock, maybe the 5 o'clock hour. I don't know. It's got to be somewhere around there. The next person that I'm talking to is Josh's sister. And it's probably about half an hour, 45 minutes later that she approaches me and says, hey, I talked to Josh, and this is what he shared with me. So Josh's sister speaks with Josh at around 5:30 p.m. And he answers the phone, and she asks him, hey, Josh, where are you at? And he's like, I'm at work. No, you're not. You're not at work. I know you're not at work. Oh, well, yeah, I know. I've got the kids. And I'm at Susan's work. To pick her up. Well, Josh, Susan's not at work. Where is she? I don't know. I don't know where she's at. And then he asks her, who's all at the house? And he also asks her, what does she know? No, these are a couple of interesting questions coming from Josh, especially after he has just spoken to Joe, and he's asking her, what does she know? It's wild. He claims that he doesn't know where Susan is. However, he is at Susan's work waiting for her, even though Joe has told him that she's not at work. No, and everybody's looking for them all. And after talking to Joe, he doesn't come home. He's sitting at Susan's employer waiting for her to come out, as if she's going to come out from work. I'm telling you, you can't make this shit up. It's insane. It's seriously, and I'm hearing this from Josh's sister, and I'm just racking my brain, and I'm trying to understand literally what the hell's going on in Josh's mind, and what is he doing? What has he done? And the last thing that he shared with his sister was that he got caught up in a snowstorm. He got caught up in a storm, and he didn't have cell service. Okay, this guy is seriously, he's full of shit, and I'm not buying it, and I'm not liking it. And I'm really starting to get a little. I'm getting aggravated now. I'm getting really annoyed. I'm getting upset because patrol has been out there since 10 o'clock. His family's been out there much longer. Now we're going on to an all-day event, and he's still playing games, and he's not coming home. And so I asked Josh's sister, hey, can I use your phone? I'm going to call him back. And this is about 20 minutes later after she had spoke to him, and he said he was going to be coming home. Well, he should have been there. I mean, that's only a 10-minute drive. And so I call his phone, and he answers. And he basically says, hey, I'm on my way. And I'm asking him, what the hell are you doing? Like, you need to get home. You need to come home. We've been here all day, man. And where is Susan? I don't know. She should have been at work. Well, Josh, she's not at work. You've had people tell you she's not at work. Like, come home. I'm on my way. And then you hear him, hey, Charlie, what do you want for dinner? No, listen, Josh, get your ass home. You don't need to be stopping to get the kids pizza or burgers. There's plenty of food here. We've got people here that can take care of them. Just get home. And we disconnect. He literally does not arrive at home until almost an hour later. Like, literally almost an hour later. I think it was 5:45 when I talked to him, and he doesn't show up till like 6:40. An hour later. Like, this guy does not give a shit. He does not care. He clearly is not worried about Susan, her well-being, where she is at. That is very, very, very clear. Very clear. He's talked to Joe. He's talked to his sister. He's probably heard my voicemails. He's probably heard everybody else's voicemails. And here it is. He's rolling up at the house at 6:40, 6:48 in the evening, almost 7 o'clock in the evening. He's finally showing up at home. What in the hell, man? Like, dude, I've had it. I've had it. I'm up to here with this guy. He pulls up, and he can't get to his driveway. He can't get to his home. I mean, with all the police cars and everything else, and kind of pulls into the circle, and I walk up. He rolls down the passenger window. The two boys are in the back seat, and you got this. I get hit with this just hot, fresh aroma pepperoni pizza. Little Caesar's pepperoni pizza. I'm hungry. I'm out here waiting for this numbnut to get home so that we can figure out what's going on. And here he is getting pizza and stuff and acting like no big deal. Yo, Josh, listen, man, why didn't you call me back? Why haven't you called my phone was dead. I didn't have a charger. And as he's telling me this, I'm looking down and his phone is plugged into a charger. So, all right, here we go. Let's start tallying up his bullshit lies. And this guy is just nonchalant, chill, not really worried about anything. And so I tried to get him to go down to our substation for an interview. I want to kind of lock him in on a statement, get the details as far as where he's been, what he's been doing for the last 48 hours. And I want to do that without the kids, but he is not leaving without those two boys. And so I can't get him to leave the two kids behind. And so, all right, well, we got to do what we got to do. And so I have him follow patrol officer to our substation, and I follow behind until we get there. And then we start this interview probably within 20 minutes after him arriving at home. And we get into this interview. He does answer questions. He kind of shares with me that he cooked everybody lunch the day before. He also shared with me how Susan was, kind of got tired around 4:30. He shares with me how Joe was there and she also ate and was hanging out. He also gets into how he took the boys sledding at 7, 8 o'clock that night. What? Yeah, I took the boys sledding. What? Who takes their kids out when it's in the teens, 12 degrees outside, dark, sledding? Okay, whatever. So then he says he gets back home after taking the kids sledding, and he cooks up hot dogs for dinner. And Susan wakes up. She has hot dogs for dinner as well. Puts the kids down for bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then he tells me that Susan tells him to clean the couch. Need to clean the couch, get all the kids' boogers off of it and everything else. And so I clean the couch is what he tells me. And he goes, so I get the steam cleaner and I clean the couch. And then he proceeds to tell me after he does that, they sit on the love seat, the other couch, and they watch a Christmas movie. After the Christmas movie, they have a little visitation, a little conversation, talk about how he needs to go out and camp and try out his new generator. And he wants to do that right then and there. Like, he's going to pack up the kids and the generator and all their gear and go out for a night camp and try it out. And he tells me Susan's okay with this. Susan, okay, really? Gosh, man, I tell you, you can't make this stuff up, man. I mean, I give him some kudos for having some sort of a plan, but Jesus. Anyways, so she apparently goes to bed and she's fine with it. And he loads up the generator and the van with their camping gear. And the last thing he loads up are the boys. And he basically goes in and just scoops them up right out of bed in their blanket and sheets and takes and puts them in the van. And he doesn't leave the residence till about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow. Holy shit. Now, let me remind you folks, you all aren't going to know this, but there was a lot of news media, a lot of coverage of a big winter storm that was moving in to Utah. And this discussion was on Sunday and probably even on Saturday. And so, yeah, there was a big storm moving in, and this guy is loading up his kids and in a minivan and is going to go out to the West Desert camping in the middle of the night on a Sunday evening into a Monday morning. And his wife is okay with it. Okay, Josh, so you're telling me that you left at 1:30, 2 in the morning to go out to the West Desert? Yeah. Okay. So what was your route? How did you get out there? Well, we can show you what that route looked like. Is what he told me is that he left his home and he drove west, so kind of like a little bit north and then west out towards Tooele, and then you head back south, going south southern Utah, and then you're going to catch a right on the Pony Express lane, Pony Express, and head back west. And that's where he went. He traveled all the way out there in the middle of the evening. He says that he arrives out there probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, which would be about right. It's about roughly about how long it would take to get out there. Once he was out there, they basically just slept. They slept until sunrise, which is around 7:30 in the morning. And once they got up, they kind of drove around a little bit all over, just trying to entertain the kids. They stopped. He claimed they had a fire so that they could have s'mores and do that stuff. And then he tells me it's probably around the 2 o'clock hour that he starts heading back towards home. Now, one thing that he brought up at this point was that he had crossed paths and was held up, and he kind of seemed annoyed by it, by a bunch of sheep. But the one thing he told me is that he made eye contact with the sheep herder. And I thought that was interesting because as I'm sitting here talking to him, I'm like, why is he focusing on the sheep herder and making eye contact and how these sheep kind of interrupted his travels? I don't know. At the time, I'm like, this is weird, but whatever. Anyways, he continues on sharing with me his travels. He leaves the Pony Express area. The area that he specifically referenced was Simpson Springs. And so anyways, he's heading back home. He doesn't go back home the way that he went out to the West Desert. He went back home a different route. That's kind of interesting, but then it's not, right? I mean, who likes to drive the same route when they're driving? Like me, I don't. I mean, if I drive this way and I can get back home going this way, then I'm going to go that way so I have a different look. So I kind of get it. All right, whatever. But he tells me how he stops to wash his van in Lehi, Utah. Why is he making a point to tell me that he washed his van? And what the hell are you doing washing your van? It snowed. it snowed that evening, that early morning. It's snowing throughout that day. Why are you stopping to wash your van? Okay. But he makes a point of it. They stopped, they ate at McDonald's in Lehi, he shares with me. And And then he tells me that from there, he drives to Susan's work. And that was about the time that his sister had called him. And he drove to Susan's work to pick her up from work. But then the next thing he tells me is that he called Susan when he had service once he got on I-15, Interstate 15. Now, don't forget that. Remember that, because that'll come up later, different episode. He claims he had his days all mixed up. I started asking him, hey, Josh, what are you doing going camping on a Sunday night into a Monday? Oh, well, I forgot that it was Sunday. I still thought it was Saturday because I didn't go to church on Sunday. Well, okay, whatever, but later we learn more information that would discount all of that. This guy's full of shit. He claims that there was no arguing, no fighting prior to him leaving. Everything was cool and calm and collected and lovely. He made her a lunch, and they watched a Christmas movie, and she asked him to steam clean the couch, and he did it. They just have such a beautiful relationship. Right. Okay, Josh, thanks. Thanks for trying to convince me, buddy. Outside of that, he did agree, hey, yeah, we do have our disagreements, and we are seeing a marriage counselor. Oh, wow, okay. That's nice. Surprised he told me that. Josh, tell me, who are Susan's 3 closest friends? Josh, well, I don't know. And then he starts naming off some names. Well, the names he's given me are the daycare provider and some work employees. Not even her best friend. Okay, dude. Well, this guy, I don't know. It was not helpful. The interview was not helpful. He didn't offer anything. He did offer some factual information. He did corroborate some information, and he did provide some bullshit. And I'm looking forward to using that against him in the next interview. But before we get into that next interview, hey, Josh, we want to look inside your van. Can we look inside your van? Well, he wasn't too excited. He didn't seem very thrilled about us rummaging around in his minivan. But we were able to talk him into it a little bit. And we were able to talk him into it. He signed the agreement willfully. And so we dive into this minivan, and what in the world? Like, I know there's some campers listening on this podcast, but there's some interesting things that he had loaded up in this van. And I'm a camper. I've been a camper ever since I was a little kid, man. My dad would take us up camping, and we didn't have the luxuries of motorhomes and travel trailers and stuff like that. We had hatchets and chainsaws and sleeping bags, right? But so we're going through this minivan, and we'll throw up some pictures here. You can see just one. It's kind of, you got to look close, but I mean, there's a shovel, there's a rake, there's a generator, there's a humidifier, a skill saw, a tote. There's a tote with a blue lid. You open that thing up, it's chock full of like all this really like cheap camping gear that's packaged. It's not even unpackaged. Sleds, some snow sleds, tarp. Gosh, I mean, there's all kinds of just random stuff in there. I don't know about y'all, but what do you need a skill saw for? I don't recall ever seeing any wood. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he had like some 2x4s or something, and he used the skill saw and the generator to cut the 2x4s to have his little s'more fire. Whatever. urban camping. I don't know, but whatever. So anyways, take note of all of this. We take some photos and take note of everything. And it's kind of weird, but hey, listen, we're not seeing any blood. We're not seeing anything crazy. We're not seeing anything yelling at us going, hey, I'm evidence. I'm evidence. We're not seeing any of that. There's a console. There's a console in between the driver's seat and the passenger seat, right? And my co-case partner is kind of diving into this thing, and he comes up and he has a like kind of a purplish pink phone, Motorola phone. He holds it up, and he's like, "Hey Josh, what's this?" I look up and I see this phone, and I'm like, "What in the hell?" And I asked Josh, I said, "What are you doing with Susan's phone?" And he was just like a deer in headlights, man. He was like a deer in headlights. He did not know what to say. He didn't know what to say, what to do, how to respond, nada. He was just like, and I think I asked him 3 different times before he provided me an answer. And his answer was this, if you can buy it. Well, I borrowed the phone from Susan because I needed some numbers out of it to call some people yesterday, and I must have put it in my pocket because I forgot, and I didn't realize that I had her phone until I was out in the desert, until I got out there, and then I just put it in the console. Huh. Okay. But then you're calling her phone. You're calling her phone to let her know that you are arriving into town from your camping trip and that you're on your way to pick her up. You're calling her phone because she's not coming out from work, but you have her phone. Oh my, see, things are just keep tallying up. The phone was completely off. It wasn't turned on. It wasn't till later, after we processed the phone, that he had removed the SIM card from the phone as well. Yeah. Yeah, this guy is clearly up to something, and that something is not good. Not good. All right. And, but hey, we don't have a body. We don't know where Susan is, and he's not confessing anything, and we don't have any like solid evidence to come back and be like, okay, this is what we got, and this is why, and this is what he did. We don't have any of this. All we have is just all of this crazy circumstantial evidence with Josh and his crazy behaviorisms and him just not wanting to deviate from his plan, right? That's what we have. And so we keep the phone and we wrap up on this search of the minivan, and we go back to the residence. We do a walkthrough with Josh inside the residence, which is traditionally common with, cases like this that are like, what's going on? Because why? We want them to walk through with us and be like, yeah, hey, look, all the doors are locked up. All the windows are intact and locked up. And look, it doesn't look like there was any sort of physical altercation in here. Oh, hey, look, and here's all this jewelry. Nobody broke in and stole it. There wasn't like this, yeah, Josh, we walked through with Josh and he's like, yeah, looks good. Yeah, it looks just like how it did when I left, with the exception of, Susan was in bed. Okay, Josh, yeah, sure, Susan was in bed. Okay, believe your stories, buddy. So anyways, we wrap up with that. And we have a brief, and it's basically me and my supervisor and my co-case. And the decision was that release the house to Josh and let's go home. And let's revisit Josh in the morning. And not, I was kind of thinking maybe you know, maybe we write a search warrant, maybe we don't write a search warrant. I kind of feel like we have enough for a search warrant. You know, I mean, with everything that he's shared with us, the inconsistencies, the stories that we have from friends, family, the discovery of the phone in her car, his bullshit story. But anyways, at the end of the day, it's decided no search warrant, release the home, let's go home, and let's revisit Josh in the morning. So I talk with Josh. Hey, look, man, let's meet at 8 o'clock in the morning. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. All right. Well, I need you to come into the office. We can have a more formal interview. We'll go over everything, and I've got some more questions for you. And he agrees. And I share with him specifically. I said, look, reach out to your mom and your sister and coordinate with them so that they can be here to watch the kiddos. And so that way you can be at the station. And he agrees. He agrees to everything. And so we end up leaving the residence. And then we roll into what? December 8th, 2009. So just as a recap for this day, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy day, people. Crazy and sad. Frustrating. It was damn cold. It was really, really cold. And, you know, my thoughts this day as it continued to progress and it's going forward and I end up leaving and I'm going home. I can't even tell you if I slept that night. I don't even know. I'm sure I did, but like what was going through my mind is just like, what in the hell is going on, you know? And what did this guy do? What did he do with his wife? Where is she at? You know, it was just, I don't know. With police work, you just don't know. You just don't know. Like, I mean, I've seen over the course of 20 years, I've seen some crazy, crazy stuff, right? And, but this one was just beyond just crazy. This was so different, just so different and weird. And, this is just day one. I appreciate you all tuning in for episode 1 of Escape Safe, the Susan Cox Powell investigation. I hope you enjoyed it. And, you know, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know, hit like, subscribe. My website, ellismaxwell.com. You can subscribe there. You got my socials. I'll be posting up content up on them. I'm going to try to do that daily. And as we progress through this investigation, things will kind of start flowing a little bit differently. Right now, I just want to try to give you some background, kind of bring you up to speed as far as the first few days. And then, because there was just a lot going on day 1, a lot going on day 2, and we'll dive into day 2 in the next episode. And you're gonna be shaking your head on day 2, going, what, how come, why? And day 3 as well, you know, it's asinine. So stay tuned, and take care of yourself and be safe. Thank you.